No, you are not imagining it. This is a cost of living crisis. It doesn't matter who you are, where you live, or how you vote, the Australian dream is slipping away. Some say it is already dead. Do you want to own a home? Good luck with that. With the Albanese Labor government flooding Australia's capital cities with 1 million migrants in a year, there is nowhere left to live. And before the left chime in with, oh, but this is a huge country, let me remind the privileged class of activists that the most of this great nation is either desert, national park, or locked up inside the disgraceful race-based system of native title that denies Australians the right to walk on their own country because they are the wrong race. Back in the real world, shoebox-sized apartments cost so much that city workers are going broke keeping a roof over their head, let alone feeding themselves. People are forced to move further away, with people travelling as much as 1 hour every morning and every afternoon just to earn a living. Now, our leaders want us to live in 15-minute cities as part of some United Nations sustainability agenda. Please, what planet are these deranged people living on? Perhaps our Lord Mayor of Sydney should spend less time hanging transgender flags on the CBD and more time on old-fashioned town planning. And here's a tip: cluttering the streets of Sydney and Melbourne with, e-bikes and cycleways is not the way forward for a prosperous city. Nor is renaming our suburbs and streets with Indigenous names. It's all a distraction to stop people asking why our political class isn't doing anything to tackle the real problems facing this country. And that's the problem with identity politics. It is window dressing, it is a hashtag on social media, and it is empty virtue signalling. Albanese's solution to the financial and social crisis is to force migrants into tight-knit regional communities. These communities are furious. Regional areas did not ask to be inundated or to compete for their jobs and housing, nor do they want to transform their pristine, sleepy corners of the country into third-world slums. And to add insult to injury, Plibersek and Bowen are sticking giant spinning machetes and solar farms all over the place. Why should Australia destroy itself? Why do we have to change to solve the mistakes of the political class? Why must Australia absorb the reckless policies of other nations? Overpopulation is not an Australian problem, and yet Albanese has decided to make it ours so that his ministers can feel better when they visit the UN. To balance government spreadsheets and create the illusion of prosperity, Labor and the Liberals, when they are in power, have made every single Australian poorer. Whether it was printing money out of thin air and shutting down the economy during COVID, or taxing Australians into poverty, government greed knows no bounds. Communist and socialist politicians tell us it is selfish for Australian workers to keep the money they earned. How dare Australians make personal sacrifices and save money? How dare Australians dream about sending their children to private schools or owning an investment property? Do you want to run a business? Well, that makes you an evil capitalist. The truth is that government greed is selfish. Socialist policies are selfish. Excess taxation is selfish. Those who expect other people to work on their behalf and then be handed a cut of their labour, stolen by the government, is the real source of selfishness in this country. And it's only going to get worse with the Greens pushing for a universal basic income funded by you. Now, politicians want you to get into the breadline and worship the altar of the all-powerful state. And speaking of bread, on tonight's show, we will speak to Nick Hosak about the rising cost of your groceries and whether or not our supermarket chains have become a monopoly, ripping off both the consumer and the producer. Shipbuilder Stuart Ballantyne is here to take the Albanese government to task over the 7,747 small businesses that this country has lost in the first 9 months of this year. Yes, 7,747 businesses.